there are plenty of smart, talented, creative, industrious, and disciplined and motivated Americans to do all of the productive stuff in our country. But they're not going to do it for free. And they're not going to do it for mega corporations that openly hate them and are trying to destroy them as fast as possible. Like, that's overt. And they're not going to do it for governments that mock them every day with, we're going to abolish the IRS, we're not going to abolish the IRS, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They're not going to, like, that's not how you spur any creativity or any kind of, like, it's not how you spur Americans, or anybody for that matter, to want to be motivated to do any of this stuff. So it's not going to work. And I want to lay that foundation before I answer this question. So keep that in the back of your mind while I answer this. This is my speculation only. It is my opinion that the Orange Man, his one job, we think as Americans, we think that the president's job is to be the ambassador to other countries and protect our borders, not the borders of other countries, our borders, and keep us, keep everybody kind of together so that we can defend off a huge invasion, let's say. That's what people think that the president's job is, and that's actually one it says. But that's not what the Orange Man's job is. He's been put in that position to try and save the US dollar. The US dollar, the single most worthless currency that has ever been on this planet's existence. No one has pulled off a currency as worthless as the USD. I'll come back to that in another video, and I'll go into more detail with that. But suffice it to say, the dollar is kind of on the ropes because it's backed by debt. And there is so much debt now, and there is no productivity to match any of that debt. And you have a whole bunch of people coming up in retirement, and the theory is, well, we're just going to import a bunch of the third world and they're going to make up all that. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. That's not how those people are going to operate. They're out for themselves. They're not trying to save America. They don't care about Americans. They don't care about any of that stuff. They don't. They have another place they can go home to. Americans don't. Americans are screwed. They're stuck here. So whatever mess that these politicians make, Americans have to clean it up. That is the reality that nobody on the media is going to tell you, and probably only very few people in social media will tell you. Americans, the ones who do all the goddamn work, are the ones who are going to clean all this mess up. Assuming that the people who have the capability, talent, skills, motivation, etc., to do all the cleaning, decide to actually clean it up. What about those of us who say, you know what? This is your mess. I'm not cleaning it up. I cleaned up my property, and the rest of you can go to hell. Because that's probably coming, because you're pissing off a lot of people. I'm not talking about this commenter. I'm talking about, this is that Orange administration with all of this. My suspicion is he's trying to save the US dollar from the inevitable collapse that it should be experiencing right now. It should be going under, and it should be getting replaced with a hard currency and a completely different set of rules. In other words, the rules that founded the country in the first place, ownership, right? Private property ownership. And when I say private property, I mean actual private property, as in it's property on which you live. It is your personal property, not just printing a bunch of fake money and then buying up all the US's assets and then claiming it's private property because you counterfeited a bunch of money to do it. Yeah, that doesn't fly with me. I mean, I know when someone's being ripped off. I know when I'm being ripped off, and I can point out to a lot of people that a lot of people are being ripped off. So, yeah, that's just how it works. So my suspicion is that is what he is attempting to do with all of this. And of course, this goes into the bond market. He's trying to bring the interest rates down to refinance this mountain of debt, this unbelievable mountain of debt, rather than just default on all of it, which would be the correct way to do it. That would be when your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall. That's called bankruptcy, right? That's when you just say, nope, that's it. We're done. And in the case of the US, we have a printing press. So we actually have the ability to just hyperinflate the currency from the bottom up, not this nonsense, not this Trumpism, this boomerism that exists right now. See, right now, everybody's like, oh my God, capitalism. No, it's boomerism that's doing this. If you want to hang an ism on something, it's boomerism. It's this idea of trying to protect all of these people who got roped into a Ponzi scheme of Social Security and the stock market and on and on and on. These people got roped into this gigantic Ponzi scheme. And it's like, well, what are we going to do with all these people? What do you mean what are you going to do with all these people? The first thing you would do is print a bunch of money, pay off, and that way they can pay off all of their debt. The bankers are left holding the bag with quintillions of worthless $100 bills. That's how you would do that. That's how you would go about that. Like, well, but then that'll make all the billionaires poor. Yes, they should have gone broke like 30 years ago. All these fake billionaires should have gone broke long time ago. And then you go back to the foundations and you realize that what disappeared is not wealth. What disappeared is the illusion of wealth. Okay? It's like kids playing Monopoly and they're like, oh, I feel rich. That money's only worth something on the Monopoly board. It's like company store bucks. Okay? It's the illusion of wealth. Your real wealth was supposed to be in your country and in your countrymen. Running a country like a business is not the way that you do that. You can't run a country like that. Right? I think some of you don't understand this, particularly MAGA people for whatever reason. You guys don't understand this. You're like, no, we can run the country like a business. Yeah, we can downsize everything, fire all the local employees, import a whole bunch of cheap labor. How's that working out for you? Yeah, I mean, that's why you don't do stuff like that. Okay? You let businesses actually succeed or fail based on their merit, not keep bailing them out with cheap labor, not keep bailing them out with bank favor and endless amounts of debt that you shove off to everybody else to pay down. Okay? Is any of that making sense? This, by the way, this is what an actual free market advocate sounds like. And I feel I've been really clear about this through the hundreds of videos I've done. Like, dude, this is what an actual free market advocate sounds like. Like an actual free market. In other words, you can succeed greatly. You can also fail miserably. And right now, not motivation, but there's this idea that we want to have the same people that have caused all these problems for the last 50 years. We want to keep those people there. We want to keep the billionaires there. No, you don't. You want those companies to go bankrupt. The so-called Magnificent Seven can all go bankrupt tomorrow morning. As far as I'm concerned, they can all go away. Why? You're like, well, but what'll happen to all the jobs? I don't know. Do you work at that company? Well, yeah, I'll lose my job. Do you have any skills? Yes. Then start your own. Why does nobody ever think like that? Why am I the only one who thinks like this? I know I'm not the only one. I'm just like, but for real, put yourself in this position. Why can't you start like, okay, you know what? Hey, there's obviously a market demand for whatever, some kind of electronic gizmo or something, or whatever. Housing, roofing, whatever. Housing materials, basic materials to build houses, what have you. There's obviously demand for that, so now you just meet the market at the demand. Right? Is that not is that not basic economics 101? I know they're not teaching that in schools anymore, and they're certainly not teaching that in the colleges. It's pathetic. Not just get on like a personal rant, but I mean, dude, that's pathetic. That is basic stuff. If there's a huge market demand, it's sort of like the war on drugs. There's a huge market demand. Of course there's going to be some enterprising individual that's going to flood in there to fill that demand. Why is that a surprise to anybody? Morality bullshit or bullshit morality aside, why would that be a surprise? Anyway, so all of that said, to answer your question, in a more succinct way, since I've got just a few seconds left, I don't think he even knows what he's doing. I really think that he is out of his depth on this one and doesn't want to let go of the fake power that him and his employers, which are not the American people, have.